Danielle van Dam, a sweet 7-year-old child from California, who, on Friday, February the 1st, 2002, at 10:30 p.m., was put to bed by her dad. Little did her dad know that was to be the last time he'd ever see his baby girl alive again. This is Night Owl. Good day, everyone. I'm Ted, your host, and welcome back to Night Owl. Today we're off to the sunny neighborhood of Sabre Springs in San Diego, California. But before we do, could you please be kind enough to remember to hit like and subscribe and to share this video? It really does help my channel out. And you may also want to turn on your notifications just so that you'll be kept apprised of any new content we come out with. With that being said, off we go to Sabre Springs, which is the home of Danielle van Dam. She was a sweet 7-year-old child that always seemed to have a smile on her face. She lived in Sabre Springs, San Diego, California, with her dad, her mom, and her 2 brothers. On the 1st of February 2002, her mom, whose name is Brenda, took off with a couple friends of hers to the local watering hole named Dad's. This wasn't too unusual. Sometimes mom and dad took turns. One person would go out, the other one would stay at home with the kids. This time it just happened to be Daddy's turn to stay home with the kids. His name, by the way, is Damon. Anyway, he stayed at home with Danielle and her 2 brothers. And around 10:30 at night, he put Danielle to bed, and she was out like a light. Damon, of course, fell asleep, and he didn't wake up till his wife got home around, 2 a.m. She showed up with 4 of her friends. When they got home, though, Brenda did notice something kind of odd. There was a light on the security system going off. It indicated that the side door in the garage was open. But anyway, the 6 of them chatted for maybe about half an hour, and friends went home. It was time for them to go to bed, and that's what they did. Now, Damon was awoken about an hour after he went to sleep by a second alarm that went off on his panel. He got up to investigate it, and he discovered the slide door that leads to his backyard was open. So he closed it, went back to bed. Then the next morning, they went into their daughter's room to try to wake her, and discovered she was no longer there. She was missing. At about 9:39 a.m., the couple called the police. Now, when Danielle went missing, they conducted an intense search for her for weeks. Volunteers checked out the desert, highways, and remote areas. The Lower Recovery Center assisted with the search, and the Danielle Recovery Center was set up at a real estate office to, coordinate the search efforts. On this Saturday, of course, as you can imagine, law enforcement officials went around and talked to the neighbors, see if they heard anything, or perhaps that they could catch an early lead. Which unfortunately not too many people actually saw that much. But they did discover that one of their neighbors, a guy named David Westerfield, was not at home. One. Now, you may be asking, well, so what? Who's David Westerfield? David Westerfield was a 49-year-old self-employed engineer that had several patents for different medical devices. Now, at the time that this was all going on, David just seemed like an ordinary guy. He had no criminal record. He was a divorced father of two college-age kids. He lived a couple doors down from Danielle and her family. And I guess he had some big-ass motorhome. Now, you might be wondering, aside from being neighbor, did they know him particularly well? Probably not. Though a few days before she went missing, Brenda and Danielle showed up at David's place to sell some Girl Guide cookies to him. And they have done that in previous years as well. Now, remember when I said the cops had talked to all the neighbors and David was nowhere to be found? Well, David was sort of a busy camper at the time, so to speak. On Saturday morning, he took off to another part of town to pick up his big motorhome. And he stocked it with all sorts of goodies and camping supplies. And then around 9:50, he left home. That was like just mere minutes after Brenda called the cops to report that her daughter was missing. Later on, David had told the police that he went out to the desert and the beach and wound up camping at the campground that was out by the beach. And that was actually backed up by witness accounts, his cell phone records, as well as a gas receipt and credit card receipts. He told him that it was always his plan to go off and do some camping around the desert. But when he got there, he realized, nuts. He forgot his wallet. So he decided to go to Strand State Beach campgrounds instead, where he was able to pay in advance for a couple days. But it got kind of cold, so he decided to go home, see if his wallet would turn up. And then after he found his wallet, he decided to go back to the desert. But there was a problem with his story. See, the witness had come forward and said that they had seen David at Strand campgrounds, and he did indeed have his wallet with him. They saw him pull it out. At any rate, as we said, David had gone out to the desert, where he, surprise, surprise, got stuck in all the sand with his big motorhome. And he was able to get it out though with some help on the Sunday. He headed home on the Monday, but on his way there, he stopped in at his favorite dry cleaners. Now, according to the person that was working the dry cleaners at the time, he showed up looking dead on his feet, real tired, and he was barefoot. And he handed him a couple comforters, a couple pillowcases, and a jacket, and asked him to clean it for him. Now, the thing is, he never mentioned it, that he stopped at a dry cleaner to the police. At any rate, the police acquired that jacket, and when they examined it, they discovered that there was 2 bloodstains on it, and it matched Danielle's. Now, of course, this was good enough for the law enforcement's antennae to get raised. So they put him under 24-hour surveillance. They saw David cleaning his RV, giving it a good once over. According to David, that's what he normally does when he gets back from a trip. But in spite of this, his RV, his house, all his properties, everything was impounded by the police. Now, David actually denied knowing what happened to Danielle. In fact, he even claimed that on the Friday night that Brenda Van Dam was at the bar, he was at the same one. And that was actually confirmed by Brenda herself. David was actually arrested on February the 22nd, mostly because of the stains that they found on his jacket and in his motorhome. Then, on February the 27th, the Van Dam's whole world came crashing down when they found little Danielle's Van Dam's nude, partially decomposed body near a trail in Delsai, which is a little town just east of San Diego. I'm sorry if I did not pronounce it right. How they found a body there, though? Well, some searchers decided to search that area after they were told about the evidence that was collected from David's motorhome. It seems that David would have actually had to drive by there to get to the desert. Now, the condition of the body was pretty bad. In fact, they had to use Danielle's dental records to confirm her identity. And it was so bad they couldn't tell the manner that she passed, or even whether or not she was essayed. Now, from what I understand, at the time that they found Danielle's body, David and his lawyer was actually just minutes away from negotiating some kind of plea deal to ensure that the death penalty would not be on the table and that the most he'd get is life in prison. Of course, and in exchange for that, he would tell the police where the body was. Of course, seeing how they found it themselves, that plea deal never happened. So, as a result, David ended up pleading not guilty. June 4th, 2002 is when the trial began. Now, his lawyers actually tried to prevent testimony from the police that actually interviewed David, claiming that the interrogation was completely unreasonable. They interrogated him for like 9 hours, no breaks, anything like that. And from what they said, David had repeatedly requested a lawyer, which, as we all know, you do that, talking's done. And that you're not going to say anything more without a lawyer present. And in the end, that objection was sustained, meaning it worked and those two cops were not able to testify. And of course, with that happening, the prosecution had to just settle for forensic evidence. And trust me, there was a lot. The bloodstains on David's clothing, for example, both Danielle and her dog's hair was found in um, David's home and the RV and on his clothes. If you're wondering why the dog hair was there, well, she had a fluffy dog. She, do what most people do, give their dog a hug. I mean, I have a dog and I get her hair on me all the time when I give her a hug. So that's how the hair wound up on Danielle, and then it got transferred into David's home and RV. They figured he probably entered the side door to the garage, and perhaps exited through the slide door that led out to the backyard. Of course, David's lawyers accused the cops of being in a rush to get a conviction, and they brought David in because he's the only one they looked at. Now, of course, as they quite often do in cases like this, they confiscated the suspect's computer, and they had their forensic people go over and see what they found. And as a surprise to absolutely no one, they found quite a bit of CP on it. And David's answer? Well, that's my 18-year-old son's fault. It's him. He downloaded it. Wow. Throwing your kid under the bus. At any rate, his son, whose name's Neil, surprise, surprise, denied it. Now, David's defense team also attacked Brendan Damon's lifestyle. They claimed, at least, that they had an open marriage and that the couple were, swingers. And that quite often they'd go off to the garage to indulge in some, of the devil's carriage with other people. Now, the whole reason they came up with that was to illustrate to the court that they may have had other people over, so it could have been someone else involved. Now, both the prosecution and defense had their own bug experts brought in, which there's a reason for that. The defense, their bug experts in to testify that the colony of insects that started up on Danielle's body started colonizing as early as mid-February. But the prosecution's bug guy said that no. They could have started colonizing a lot early, more like February 2nd. In the closing arguments, the defense said, well, there's no evidence that David was actually over at Danielle's house. There's no hair samples or anything like that, so they had nothing according to them. Now, the prosecution, of course, fired back saying that doesn't prove anything. Just because someone didn't leave evidence behind doesn't mean they weren't there. I mean, if you use enough precautions, you can prevent that, right? But there may not have been any signs of David being in Danielle's house, but there was tons and tons of signs of Danielle being in both David's home and his RV, which was more than enough. The trial actually lasted a couple months, but on August the 21st, the jury came back and found David guilty of the first-degree murder, kidnapping, of Danielle Van Dam, as well as possession of a lot of CP. Now, during sentencing, you know how they normally give the victims a chance to make a victim impact statement. Well, in this case, it was actually David's 19-year-old niece that took the stand. And she said that when she was a kid, probably about 7, she was staying overnight at her uncle's place, sharing a room with her cousin, which is her uncle's daughter. And she awoke in the middle of the night to find her Uncle David, as she put it, playing with her teeth. Okay. At any rate, she bit his finger as hard as she could. Atta girl. And she ran off and, of course, told her mom. They questioned her about it, but from what I understand, nothing was actually done when it comes to it. And in January 2003, the sentence was passed down to David. He received the death penalty for what he did to Danielle. Now, does that mean he will actually meet his end at the state's hand? Not necessarily. California kind of keeps on kind of flip-flopping between yes, we'll have it, and no, we won't. We'll just have life in prison. So, honestly, who knows? Now, what's my opinion on the death penalty? Well, I actually don't like it, but not for the reason you may be thinking. I mean, think about it. You end someone's life, you've ended their suffering. Whereas the family of the victim, the pain they suffer is like eternal. I mean, it can leave a stain on their family for generations to come. So what I think they should do when it comes to guys like this, they should just lock them away in solitary confinement. Still feed them like you do any other inmate. Not give them a chance to better themselves, like, or anything like that. Like, why should he be earning a degree? I mean, if he's in there for the rest of his life, it's not like he's gonna have a use for it. And yeah, now mentioned it would be taxpayers that would have to pay for that degree. And that's not fair to anyone. Now, Damon and Brenda Van Dam wasn't exactly done with David yet. They actually sued him, which the case was actually settled out of court through various insurance policies David had with his house and stuff like that. And Damon and Brenda was actually awarded like $416,000, which, still doesn't bring your kid back, but still. And part of the lawsuit was that David cannot profit from his crime. Like write a book or something. Now, the story actually does not end there. In 2003, the cops received a letter from someone that claimed to be a dude named James Shelby. He was actually claiming responsibility for what happened to Danielle. Now this guy is, at the time was sitting in prison for various SAs he committed on people. He also was trying to claim responsibility for what happened to Sean Ramsey. But But now when it comes to the letter he sent over Danielle, I do not believe either the prosecution or even the defense gave it any kind of weight. As for James' fate, he sort of himself in prison while he was waiting to be sentenced. The overpass on Interstate 8 and North 2nd Street in El Cajon has actually had its name changed to the Danielle van Dam Memorial Overpass. This is fairly close to where her body was found. I wish to send out my heartfelt condolences to the Van Dam family. What their family went through, no family should have to go through. Such a thing doesn't only hurt their family, but it could cause their family endless pain for all eternity. All because they had a monster for a neighbor. Well, what's your opinion? Especially when it comes to the death penalty, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Let me know in the comments. I'm not trying to start any kind of comment war here. Just everybody's opinion matters. Well, at least it does to me. And I'm curious to know what everyone else thinks. Thanks for coming by. And as always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And to share this video because it really does help us out with those pesky algorithms. And you may want to turn on your notifications too so that you'll be kept apprised of any other content we come out with. Once again, thanks for coming, and remember, be you good or be you wicked, everyone deserves justice. Good night.